Trudy sitting in for Aaron this week, and we're talking about electric cars, specifically whether it is actually feasible here in Quebec to swing around to all electric sales as of 2035. A few days ago, it was the big car manufacturers, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, Toyota, Volkswagen, saying this is not realistic. We're not going to be able to engineer that. We're not going to be able to pull it off. Well, begging to differ is Electric Mobility Canada. And we welcome to CJAD 800, the Director of Policies at Electric Mobility Canada, Louise Lévesque. Louise, welcome to CJAD.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what was your take after hearing that those big car firms were saying, no, not feasible, 2035, too soon, too fast? What do you think?
I think it's a bit of a flashback because I remember back in 2016 when Quebec was planning on installing a ZEV mandate, the OEMs were saying the same thing. We can't do it. The targets are too high. But let's just behold the fact that 8 years later, targets are not only being met, but they're also being surpassed. So I think that we can continue on this trend, and regulations do work. And people in Quebec want to drive electric cars. We just need to get them on the market and have them available. And it's absolutely doable.
Well, I think one of the key things is you got to bring the price down. Because for a lot of people right now, they're just out of they're priced out of reach.
Yeah, but many new vehicles, not only the electric vehicles, more and more the OEMs have been leaving the market of the smaller, more affordable cars and moving into higher level, SUVs and things like that. Because even a gas car. I think the average price for a new gas vehicle in Canada is something like $66,000. So you can get many electric vehicles for below that price. So I do agree that we need to have more affordable models available. But currently EVs are not necessarily more expensive than gas cars.
Do you acknowledge that there are some, let's call it infrastructure challenges tied to that 2035 deadline that are going to have to take some stick handling?
Well, I think what I observe is that, I've been driving electric since 2014, and the infrastructure that is needed to support more and more EVs on the road has followed. We're adding EVs, and having this type of regulation can also offer the market the predictability necessary to know how many chargers we're going to need. So we're capable of planning. The industry can plan and install the charging stations and know that they will be used. So we know how many we need to install. We have to plan for it and make sure that the infrastructure that is needed will be there. But of course, what we need in 10 years is not currently available, but it will be built as the vehicles are added to the fleet in Quebec.
What about the thought that we might have to ramp up energy production to keep pace? Here in Quebec, we lean very, very heavily on hydroelectricity. So that type of infrastructure is not quickly built.
No, that's true. But you have to also take into account, again, we have the planning capacity because the markets are regulated, so we know what's coming. But there's also other sources of extra demand that will be added. EVs are not the only additional demand. But one thing about EVs is that it's a flexible demand in the sense that you can have people charging their vehicles later at night, avoiding those peak hours. Electricity companies across Canada are saying we can manage this because there are ways of being flexible about when we charge our EVs.
What about the question of subsidies for electric vehicles? I think they were a lot of drivers who wanted to be early adopters with electric vehicles were thrilled with them and jumped on the chance. Has demand kind of caught up now to the point where maybe the government doesn't need to put tax dollars into EV purchases?
Yes, I think that's what the Quebec government is seeing right now. And that's why they announced that they will be lowering the rebates in the coming years. And also, the prices, we're looking at price parity with gas vehicles is coming closer and closer. So those subsidies were meant to fill in that price gap. And as the price gap is closing, well, we don't need as many rebates, as much of a rebate as we did before. So that's it was predictable that they would be phased out at some point, but there are still some subsidies available for some time. And there's also a federal subsidy that Quebec drivers are eligible for also.
What about green lanes? Because I know a lot of drivers of gas vehicles are steamed when an entire lane is set off for, it's usually here in the Montreal area, it's usually set off for buses, taxis, carpools, and green plates. In other words, electric vehicles. Will the need for that incentive come to an end before 2035 in your view?
I don't have a crystal ball of policy, but I do think that in California they have started or have planned to phase that out because at some point, if there's too many, green plates on that lane, well, it's not a fast lane anymore. But I know that it is a very, very nice incentive for some drivers, especially around Montreal, and there are some Quebec City lanes also there. But I think that they're there for a good few more years. And then at some point they might say, okay, EVs, but you have to have, some carpooling or something like that. But I don't have that crystal ball. That's a little later down the road. And the ideal thing is, though, I just want to say, we like EVs, but another option for people driving in cities like that would be to take public transportation. So then you're in the lane anyway.
One of our texters is asking about winter. Do you feel the manufacturers are responding quickly enough to the concerns of consumers about being able to cope with Quebec winters?
I don't. The technology is working very well in Quebec winters. There is, of course, a certain level of it does impact the range of vehicles, but it also impacts the range of gas vehicles. But that's another conversation. But there's also, the travels that we do, we adjust the charging when you're doing longer travels. You just might have to have an extra stop to charge. But for your daily commute, there's absolutely no problem driving in winter. With modern EVs, when you have 400 or more kilometers of range, I don't see why you can't go to work and get back without any problems.
Louise Lévesque, thanks very much for sharing your insights on this question.
Thank you so much.